Simpit. Good morning and happy weekend, everybody. It is the second Saturday of the month, and that means we are here for 3 Wide. So before I go through my full normal introduction, let me introduce my co-hosts, Ameer, Assad, and Devin Booth.
Hey!
Good morning, both of you guys. How are ya?
Morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm all pumped up. I noticed we're all geared out. Everyone's geared out today. What is this out? We look like a team. We look like a team of some sort.
You look like a...
Awesome. Well, it has been quite a week on what I would call a corporate level in sim racing. And I'm looking at our topics, funny enough, for today.
Yep.
And it's really beyond... Today's topics, funny enough, aren't really necessarily all the way down at us, the sim racer level, funny enough. We're really focusing our attention on that next tier up, the developers and up, let's say, and or contributors and up. So this week, there was sort of you could almost call it World War I, Sim Racing War I, when one of the biggest and best streamers on planet Earth, Mike of Sim Racing 604, had his channel pulled out from underneath him. If you don't know, and I don't know how far we want to go into this topic because it's resolved itself, but that's the beautiful thing. But if you haven't watched or paid attention, and nearly every streamer on Earth talked about it, there was a copyright infringement, and this is a trick that can be used negatively against streamers, and very little streamers can do in a short amount of time to even defend themselves. So it's not that they can't defend themselves, it's just a process that takes time and a lot of work. Anyway, things resolved. Do you guys, any thoughts on that from either of you? When I came into the story, it's funny, I woke up one morning, sorry to go long-winded here, I ask you a question, then I pull it. Retract that question. Earlier in the week, I woke up, and there were messages from both of you saying, hey, we need to get on this. And it took me, I wasn't actually at home that day, or I had other things I was doing, I should say. And it took a day to get to it. And by that point, it had resolved itself, funny enough. So when I got to the point of making the video the following morning, it got to be hey, look at what we've done. So, real quick before I turn it to you guys. So in a nutshell, for everybody watching, if you didn't catch the story, the copyright strike was put against him. The channel was shut down. Mike was ready to walk away from sim racing, and then the community spoke. And I was late to the game, so let's not give me any credit. All the streamers out there pretty much came out and said, hey, you people, you need to get vocal on this one. And they did. And in the course of hours, not days, things were restored. And it was kind of a beautiful thing seeing the community stand up for one of the best streamers out there, and having a company, hey, Mike, hey, buddy.
There he is. And speak his name and he's here. Yeah.
Don't say it 3 times, though. But yeah, having the community come out in that level and really force the hand of action. Any thoughts on that, Ameer, Devin, you guys? What do you think? I've probably said more than enough from my end on this.
Real quick, because Mike came in at the perfect time. Right. There's his name. Give the name a click. Go follow the man. He's a great man. He's a great example for the community here. My big point on this one was specifically like a watch out for you guys. Like, we all have reasons we want to talk about the topics, My thing is like it's a watch out. A lot of you guys are content creators yourselves. This kind of thing can happen. Frivolous reporting and copyright strikes is a thing on YouTube, and thank God it hasn't happened a lot in our community. But for it to happen to Mike, it shows that it can, right? And it's not a good thing. And then I know there's more to do with the modding stuff. I'll let Ameer kind of talk about that stuff, but it's just it's a bad thing. So be aware of it, and it can happen. Hopefully, it doesn't happen in our community though. After having dealt with this and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
well, sorry, Mary, please.
I was gonna say it started off as a really crappy story because if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Random Call Sign. He's the one that started off with the first videos talking about what happened to Mike, And luckily, I mean, in the end, everything worked out. You know, he is in chat. He's back with us, which is great. It's awesome, man. As I said, he's one of the nicest guys in sim racing. And it'd be really tragic if we lost him. But yeah, that's just like the lowdown skinny. He made a video about Sim Dream. These guys make mods for Assetto Corsa, and they have a reputation for ripping the car models from other games, from iRacing, Forza, all this other stuff, and illegally uploading it as their own and selling it. I think that's the big part, is they take all this stuff and then they sell it for, I can't remember how much they sell them for, as their own product. So when Mike heard about that, he made a video talking about it, and he wasn't even using videos of their cars on his thing. I think Mike was using AMS2. And he was talking about their mods on Assetto Corsa, and then he got hit with all the copyright strikes. And it's pretty crappy because anybody can do it to anybody if you don't like the person. But luckily, the community spoke up. I mean, I'm just naming names off the top of my head. The ones that made videos about it was like Random Call Sign, Ermin Hamidovic, Empty Box, Gamer Muscle, Billy Strange, Single Racer, Chris Hay, Jimmy Broadbent, and there's dozens more that all stood up for Mike. And that's what it's, a big thanks to all those people that spoke up, and the countless more people that were, that flooded Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, trying to get YouTube's team on it to kind of resolve this and get Mike back on with us. So yeah, again, for anybody that was here that was also part of that, thank you guys. Thanks a lot for bringing Mike back to us.
Absolutely. One of the things, there are a few parts here that bother me. Like, I'm not going to get into the whole modding part of this. That's a different topic here for me. But, what I don't like is the way, like, YouTube has become so corporate. Give you a great example. When I first started doing this, so going back to Sim Racing Tonight even, we only had like 40,000 subscribers. I say only, that's a good number. But we had 40,000 subscribers. And at that point in time, we were on the invite list from YouTube. Like, please come down to our studios. And these, they wanted like us to mentor other streamers, other YouTubers on how to make a dime off of YouTube, because we were one of their success stories with 40,000 subscribers and actually making an income. And I just think of how much it's flipped, because that's the way YouTube used to be, where it's like, hey, you streamers, you're the most important thing, is we're going to have workshops, physical workshops in our thing, right? And now here we are, fast forward, 18 years, or, so 15 to 18 years. Obviously Google purchased them since then, but now we're to the point where they take the side of the corporate instantly. It's not about their streamers. And this has been one of my real complaints and hardships of still being a YouTuber, is that they really just take the word, especially, like, know your place. Yeah, but when you build something on the back of one thing, I'm not sure if it's everyone else to know their place as much as them doing a full 180 on who their clientele is. It's obvious we were their clientele, then, and now their clientele are then. Actually, YouTube's a free service, therefore we're all the clientele. That's the bottom line right there. No, but it's just a real shame, because YouTube was one of those true places that was really for the people more than for anything else, and it then became very much for the companies and corporations and advertising points and defending their copyrights. And DMCA isn't a joke either. I mean, this is something that very much belongs in place. Otherwise, we'd all just be playing the Beatles music as background sound, and hey, who cares? No, but that's their stuff. They deserve. So all that is really right. And when it's wrongfully used, my complaint here is that YouTube doesn't give you the honor of defending yourself. So, Mike, feel free to correct me here, but I believe you wake up to a channel that is shut off, and maybe if you would look in your email, a simultaneous email saying, hey, here's a copyright strike and we've shut off your channel. There was no, hey, we're inquiring about this DMCA complaint and would like to hear your side of the story. You know, maybe you had some form of ownership rights that they are unaware of, you know, that you might even pay for. Anyway, it just kind of bothers me a lot, and that part of it is just that somebody can misuse it in such a way, and YouTube they don't seem concerned about that side, and then they over police the other side for those who aren't even in violation. It's unfortunate. I'm glad, but again, yeah, no opportunity. It just happens like that. You wake up and boom. It's really not cool. It's not, to me, it just isn't even proper business. You know, that's just not how you do it. I mean, think of anything else in the world. That's not how they do it. Like, you know, it's just a weird situation. Any other thoughts? We have so much to cover, you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's YouTube. Yeah, no, you said it. Like, YouTube's not really for the little guy anymore. They're more for these big guys or people that have, let's say, a vindictive agenda towards something. Like, you can manipulate the system that they put in place to somebody to put to quiet down somebody. Because I can go right now, like I could go to like the Simpit channel. There's a video I don't like. I can just say hit, with a copyright strike claim, and then there's not much you could do about it. You can appeal it, but that video could be possibly taken down or shut down until it goes through that appeal process. I think you can have 3 copyright strikes. The first one, the first one you get, and each copyright strike only lasts for 90 days and expires, and you go back to normal. But once you get that third one, everything is shut down, and you can't do anything about it. And like the big 2 differences between it, so you could be a normal YouTuber, but then you're a YouTube partner. If you're a normal YouTuber, that third strike, your channel's gone completely. There's nothing you can do about it.
Nope.
But luckily, I think Mike, he's a YouTube partner. He was given that 7 days to kind of appeal it and figure out what was going on with his channel, which is great. But like for all the other smaller guys that might end up going through this, I mean, for lack of a better word, yeah, they're effed. Yep. And they have to either restart over again or just stop what they were doing.
Yep. Yeah. It's really not cool. Now, I mean, again, Devin mentioned this when we first got going on this, though. At the same time, so many of you guys stream, and you kind of need to just maybe even take this as a slight warning, because in this case it was not right. It was not a proper violation. But we do things sometimes that are very basic. I'll give you. It's not even your fault. If you stream games, a lot of games have in-game music. So when you're in the menus or when you're firing up the game, it's playing music that you do not have rights to. And this is one of my gripes. I didn't really want to take it this direction. But when it comes to this stuff, I actually feel like, hey, if you're going to, in 2021, when you've built streaming into your game, because most of them have at this point, you can't put music that's going to put me in violation. Because if you bought a single license to it for your game title, and I go stream your game title, and again, I say this because think about most modern games. They almost all have some built-in streaming platform. They want you to be doing this, but then they could put you in big trouble. I've had in-game music cause me copyright strikes. Now, they're not the kind that shut your channel down, by the way. That's the difference. Right. They're the kind that demonetize that video.
When their answer to that too, like the dev's answer would be like, oh, to be fair, we put in a warning about that, but the warning is buried under an EULA that nobody looks at. Every now and again there's some, like I think Farm Sim has a pop-up when you're listening to their radio stations, right. And so does American Truck Simulator, where it'll say like, hey, this music is not safe, so don't use it. So to their credit, there are some developers, but notice the developers that do that are the small ones.
Right.
Like it's like F1 2020 that's going to give you the copyright strike for their audio.
Absolutely.
And theirs is buried under an EULA.
Sure.
So.
I actually had a Codemasters video demonetized for playing the F1 logo intro that you can't even avoid if you play the game. Like, that's part of the sequence. And it's like,
right.
What are you guys doing to me?
What? I think it's funny. Like, I remember, what is it, when the Aston Martin first came out in R Factor 2? a bunch of people that were testing out that car got copyright strikes from Aston Martin because they were driving the car in the.
Yeah, so these are starting to fall into those areas where I'm like, wow, at what point, I don't know the word, but at some there is a line for copyright of when you've written or stated or put something together that was so unique that it's copyrightable. But at the same time, this is planet Earth. There is a limited amount of colors. There's a limited amount of graphics. There's a limited amount of sounds, instrument. So it's like, after how many years do you get to a point where it's virtually impossible to create something without it technically stepping on the toes of something else?
Yep.
Wow, we are on, man. Talk about a rabbit hole. All right. Any other thoughts? Because, I really do want to get on to our other thoughts today, but we couldn't let this go. I know I mentioned it and did my video, but sorry.
No, on the other hand, again, I'm just, I'm glad everything worked out and Mike's back with us again, fully back up and running, man. Just, hey, again, thanks to everybody that stood up for him and made all the videos and flooded Twitter and all the other social medias trying to get him back.
Yes.
Yeah, ending it on a thank you is a good note.
and congratulations to SimForce. We stood together strong and we made ourselves heard. So, all right. Like I said at the beginning, someone's sending me money. Did you hear that? That was money. Money. We mentioned this is sort of a corporate show. This is the show where we're looking at that next tier up. Another very significant thing that happened this week. Was it this week? It might have been last week, but very, very recently. Is Motorsport Games. Motorsport Games. Uh-oh. I can see the copyright strike coming right now.
Oh boy.
Let's be careful. Let's be careful. Let's be careful with our words here.
I'm thinking. All right, we're good.
Can I put a disclaimer up on the show? Motorsport Games, and Motorsport Games is on a terror of acquiring assets in the sim racing world. The latest one being R Factor 2, and with it, R Factor 2's assets and affiliations, which include Le Mans. Actually, wait, if I'm not mistaken, Le Mans was acquired by Motorsport Games separate of R Factor 2. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what they did that for their independent competitions they're doing around Le Mans.
Right, so one of the things they did January of this year. So they were working with the ACO, Automobile Club l'Ouest, something French, and they're the ones that have the naming rights to Le Mans and everything that's related to Le Mans. So I think in January they did a 10-year exclusive deal on the naming rights for anything Le Mans. And if you notice that when that happened, something in iRacing, one of the series in iRacing's names changed right after that. Can I say what the series is? Am I going to get copyright striked for that?
I think we're allowed to say it. I think we're allowed to say it.
Because we used to have the Le Mans Sprint Series and Le Mans Endurance, series, and those names changed to the European Sprint and Endurance Series in iRacing because of that.
Okay. In addition to that, Motorsport Network or Motorsport Games Motorsport Network is the parent company of Motorsport Games, right? Okay. So, in addition to that, they signed a deal for BTCC game and esports series. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that's going to do to Race Room. I mean, isn't that one of their big assets over there? Yep. They just acquired Kartcraft, right? This just happened. They already were the owners of NASCAR Heat, the game. That's actually had been their backbone of existence, 704 games in NASCAR Heat. And as you, Ameer, research, they've increased their share in that up to 90% of the total ownership of that game. Now here, I guess on one hand you could say, who cares, right? That's what happens. This is capitalism at its best. Here's where I have a real problem. And this is, I don't know what's going to come of this. You can't, for me, I don't think you could definitively say if this was going to be a good or bad thing. Right? Because you can make an argument of the better access to things, whatever, blah, blah, more resources, perhaps, blah, blah, blah. But here's where I'm coming from. As long as I've been doing a show, R Factor and parts of that team have been together, despite it originally being ISI and now being Studio 397, well, and then becoming Studio 397. These are people who have really had a vested interest in sim racing from that level that we look at it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a cash grab. It wasn't a trying to grab market share. John Samai and his team believed in sim racing and loved simulated motorsports, and that was their motivation for making R Factor 1 to become R Factor 2. And I'm not trying to take away from their ability to make money. Their right to make money. My concern is when I see a company like Motorsport Network, founded in 2015, new to sim racing, by the way. I mean, so founded in 2015 as Motorsport Network, Motorsport Games. I don't know the exact beginning of that, but this is not people with 2 decades plus of love for sim racing. And when I look at my big sims, the ones I depend on, it's really important that they're by companies. I mean, like, if you knew Dave Kamer, to know the way he locks himself in an office for years trying to study and learn everything about tire behavior because of his love for simulation and his desire to have it be perfect. And I don't believe companies behind NASCAR Heat, no offense, have any love for simulation. They might have a love for racing and NASCAR and the glory, but I don't think they have a love for sim racing like we, hardcore-ish sim racers, do. What do you guys think?
I'm cautiously optimistic, to be honest. I hope it could be a good thing. Imagine if NASCAR started feeling like R Factor. That would be a win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, like reading through the article where they talked about where they bought, Studio 397 and the R Factor title, one of the things that they did talk about is using that team to build titles and develop engines for their new and upcoming projects too. So I mean, I think on that because there's two things, like I'm happy about it, I'm not happy about it. So like I'll talk about the happy part about it is like R Factor 2 is one of my favorite titles, but I mean but there's still a lot of things that R Factor 2 needs to fix before they can be even at the level of iRacing. So I think them buying them is probably going to give them that cash influx to where they can start, maybe growing their team and, bringing R Factor 2 to being a title that can be even, can compete with iRacing, or even help them develop R Factor 3. I don't know. Because I mean, R Factor 2, it went through a period where there wasn't really much going on with it, but the last year and a half, 2 years, they've just been pumping out more and more content. So all I can think of is I hope like them buying them brings in that cash influx so they can even speed up their development of all the stuff they got going on with it.
Right. I'll tell you one thing. I mean, I can see some positive. I mean, R Factor from the day it was born has always struggled from just not knowing how to build a user interface that worked and made life easy or decent. And I truly believe that Motorsport Games is complete. That will be one of the, they'll come in and wait, this is how I load a car? No. So yeah, I mean, I think plenty of good can come from such a thing. I mean, the other thing I'll say is that Motorsport Games, they might be I mean, the problem for me is it just feels like this big VC venture capital, buildup of money to just acquire assets. And it's like, God, the guys behind this spent years of blood money building this, and now it's just coming down to money. Marco asks, Shaun, would you, if Motorsport Games wanted to buy the Simpit, would you sell it? And my answer is, man, absolutely not. There's no friggin' way I would ever sell out like that. So okay, Devin, where are you on this one?
Like I said, I think it's a good thing. I honestly do. You mentioned the 20 years of experience. They brought on a guy that has 20 years experience. right? They bring the team from R Factor in. I like to look at it as like they know they dumb. They heard all the reviews of the last games. They've made what improvements they could. Because give the last NASCAR Heat game did make improvements, right? Billy was the notable one talking about it, right? But they did make improvements. They actually did, and because of those improvements, it makes me feel like this change was made to make more improvements.
I love that thought.
That's what it seems like to me. I don't want to be cynical about it. I'm cynical about everything else.
Sure.
Well, I don't know. I'll inject a little cynicism, if you want to call it. I don't know, cynicism or whatever you want to call it. So, because one thing, like, I don't know. This I've talked to you, I think, about it, Devin. Maybe Shaun. I don't know. I can't remember. We've just chatted about it, but like when you don't see the Le Mans name in iRacing anymore, and if you look at their special events schedule, iRacing's not. Not iRacing, but Le Mans is not on their schedule.
Right.
So because their deal with the ACO, they have the exclusive naming rights for that track and anything associated with it in video games. So my thing is Le Mans going to disappear, or the naming at least going to disappear from all the other titles that are out there because of this exclusive deal they got with them?
Right.
And now this opens up a whole other can of worms, like 24 hours of Spa, 6 hours of Watkins Glen, like what's going to happen to all those endurance events that a lot of people participate in that you just probably can't use anymore?
Yeah, well, it's such a tough line. It's hard for me to look at, as much as I'm a racer, it's hard for me to look at a racetrack the same way I look at a piece of art or a piece of music. And not to take anything away from a racetrack, but I kind of feel like at the same time, once you put certain things out there into public in a certain way, that, well, I guess the same applies to art and music. That's the thing. There really is no difference. It's the same thing. It just seems different for me for some reason. I don't know why. But this is something that's really bothering me. I mean, sure, everyone has a right to protect things that they own. But at the same time, where is that line? I mean, okay, in the case of iRacing, here's the line. I think, like, let's talk Le Mans. Let's stay on Le Mans as the topic. Mm-hmm. And anyone out there is a lawyer, please correct me. So I'm just going to go with I think that it's illegal for iRacing to use it because iRacing charges money for that. So even if they don't charge money for the event, just the fact that they charge a subscription to even be there to use the track or purchase the track. So they might have the rights to the track in terms of they have that right, they've made the track. That would be interesting too.
There has to be a licensing agreement there.
Well, there has to be a licensing agreement for the track, and I wonder if it's forever or...
Right, well, it would have to extend, because if they're still charging money for the track, right, you can still buy the track right now.
Right.
If there's charging money for the track, you're buying the track with the name on it, there has to be some kind of licensing agreement there.
But they can't hold the event. But now you can hold the event, I believe.
I think they will. Steam has said there's more special events coming. I think that the Jason said something about the people seeing paint files for it. I think they'll still hold it. And I think they'll rename it, maybe. There might be maybe it's the Le Mans 24 instead of the 24 of Le Mans, right? They might mess with it a bit,
right?
But I'm sure that in some way or something, some way or form, they still have enough of the licensing that they'll be able to pull it off. And this will only last a year if they don't.
Wasn't
to be fair.
Sarth the escape word for Le Mans?
No, his Sarth to Sarth or whatever.
24-hour circuit to Sarth,
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of the things you look back at, like Need for Speed. How long did they have the Porsche license?
20 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, like in any other game they couldn't call it a Porsche; they had to call it a Roof, which is a modding modding company that's associated with Porsche.
He meant Porsche.
Porsche. I'm sorry, Porsche.
I said Roof, by the way.
Roof. So I don't know. This sort of thing is like, I get it. It's a business and all that stuff, but. To me that's something where like gamers or us sim racers, like we care about those little things like that.
I can't see it lasting longer than a year. Even like if they actually did, if let's say Le Mans doesn't happen this year, right? Which is it might not, right? I'm not saying it's going to, right? Nobody knows at this point. But let's say it doesn't happen, right? I can't see that happening next year. They'll find a way around it, or they'll change licensing agreements because all they're going to do is lose money. Le Mans,
Yeah.
like you for tracks in specific and events, the whoever manages this side of things for the track and for their marketing, there's no way that they're going to lose out on, because R Factor hosts it, iRacing hosts it, and then you've got the plethora of other things, like if they do it in Project Cars, if they do it in
Well,
whatever other series, AMS, you lose out on a lot of advertising. There's no way.
I mean, well, they could do it in R Factor 2 because now Motorsport
That would
Games
be
owns
cool.
R Factor 2.
Right.
So they could do it in there. Because, Motorsport was part of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the virtual one that they did last year in R Factor 2. They were one of the major sponsors for it.
See, this is what kind of bums me out when we talk this route. I felt like we were getting to that point where we were on the brink, where like the racing and the automotive industries realized that they needed our audience more than they needed the nickels and dimes for this particular licensing. We're not just selling T-shirts here. We're building you an, you know what I mean? It's a little so.
Yeah.
And I really felt like over the last few years we've been gaining so much traction towards having that relationship where we maybe put these things behind us. Because if you ask me, what is the worst thing about sim racing, or one of the what are the problems for sim racing, and I would tell you that licensing, thank you Cranky, is one of the biggest issues we fight, because you'd be able to drive a lot more cars, you'd be able to drive a lot more tracks if it weren't for licensing. And I understand, and again, I'm going to keep throwing the Beatles out there. You know what? They're too dated now, because it would be their family members mostly collecting the cash. But no, but when it comes to that, it's like, well, you have to appreciate those things. Sure, I get it.
Yep.
But man, I just thought we were getting closer, and then this is like, I'm not saying Motorsports is doing it on purpose, but I felt like when we had all of our independent houses just staying independent, that it increased the odds that we'd get there, because there'd be no point in buying your way against the enemy. And then if the Le Mans name goes, I'm like, well, is that where it's going to end? Because they do own NASCAR Heat. So are they going to try to sweet talk NASCAR into being the only license? And then I look to the people who are like, oh, well, it'd be great because R Factor 2 could get better NASCAR. And it's like, but you're going to give up iRacing NASCAR for that?
Well, there's a comment there. They own NASCAR Heat. There's obviously some kind of sharing thing going on there.
Yeah.
Yes, right. But will there be a push to change that? I don't know. When I look at a company that is like, okay, again, iRacing, the only thing they do and own is iRacing. R Factor, the only thing Studio 397 does is sim racing game. When I look at Motorsport Network, motorsport.com, motor1.com, Motorsport Network, NASCAR Heat, tuning car simulator, now Kartcraft, R Factor 2, NASCAR Heat, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like companies like that, despite their resources, they might be able to make a fantastic game. That is a company that is motivated far more by money than they are their product. And that's why I come back to guys like Dave Kemmer. I come back to John Samai. And I come back to the fact that, Motorsport Network, if you're listening, no, I wouldn't sell. Anyway.
You just make another company called the Sim Barn. I don't know.
Now, with all that said, again, getting back to the UI of R Factor 2. Let's stick with R Factor 2, because for me, that's of everything they've done. I really don't care what iRacing has to call Le Mans, as long as they get to keep Le Mans. So if they have to switch it back to SART, we have to run the 24. Everyone knows, I don't care. So that's fine by me. But then when I do go back to R Factor 2, and I've been a huge fan of the R Factor 2, and I've really, I hate saying, I've been really disappointed that they haven't stepped up to that modern era feel sim. And I don't mean that about the on-track stuff. I mean that, again, about the user interface. And, and iRacing is no more modern. It's just that it's so simple. You know, I don't have to do anything to get a car other than buy it.
What are you talking about? The beta UI is super modern.
Next month's 3Y.
I can't even stand by that comment, Devin. I can't even. I love R Factor. I can't even stand by that comment.
So yeah, I do feel that a game company is going to really be quick to modernize and facelift R Factor 2, and that could have been one of R Factor's biggest hurdles, really. I mean, because anybody who tried to get into R Factor would find that obstacle and then immediately be turned away. Not anyone, but a lot of people. So, Sonic, that's the thing. I don't know at what point, because, like, I don't, you know, you cannot copyright, like, Mount Rushmore. You know, I can go to Mount Rushmore and take pictures of it and do paintings of it all day long. And in fact, I can do the same. And I think I don't know. So if I go take a picture of Le Mans, the racetrack, can I sell that picture?
No, so it depends. So like, I learned this being here in Europe. So, for example, like you go to Paris and you want to take a picture of the Eiffel Tower. You can take a picture of the Eiffel Tower during the day, but when you take it during the night, when it's all lit up, you're not allowed to do that.
When you can technically do it, you can't sell it. It's right.
No, you're not supposed to. No, they will stop you saying you're not allowed to do that.
Wow. See, I mean, and this is, I mean, wow, we're really, I love how we get on these parallels, by the way. This is one of my favorite parts of this kind of show. But, that's the kind of, like, and this is where I get back to, so where do you draw the line? With music, isn't there a time limit? Isn't there a time limit for music? So,
well, it's for anything that's been, this is not even music, but like music, movies, books, the copyright lasts for 75 years after the author's death. After that, then it can no longer be copyrighted anymore. Then it becomes public domain.
Oh, that's forever.
Well, and that there are small variations on that based on where you are too. It's super.
Well, that's American law. That's
but if you're
specifically American law.
You were talking about music and stuff. There's things about being transformative in nature. So that's why you see Le Mans not laser scanned named Cirque de la Sarthe in other games. Because it's transformative in nature. The track isn't actually as wide as it is. The things around the track are slightly different. The name isn't quite the same. It's just recognizable enough, right? It's super convoluted. Context and how much you modify something is what allows you to use pretty much anything. But like iRacing's is laser scanned, like it is the track. So there's got to be something there.
Yeah, just to comment on Peter real quick. I highly doubt R Factor 2 would ever go to the Unreal Engine just because of how good their engine already is. It's not like their limitation, I don't think, is because of their engine or the content in it. Their limitation has always been its ease of use through the UI, setting up servers, which is something that people have been complaining about for years, ever since the game launched. Yeah, forever, right. But as I said, for the past 2 years, they've been working really hard on making sure it's up to today's standards, and that's what I'm hoping. Just this cash injection that they got from the purchase will help them get to that point. But yeah, like, I doubt they'll ever go to Unreal Engine just because of how good what they have right now.
Yeah, getting back to this, music is a little different. Art is even a little different. I'm going back to this whole thing, and racetracks are a lot more on this other side of things. If you build something, and it is out there in public friggin' view, I don't understand how you can act like you have some kind of right to anything. It's like, I'm sorry, you chose to put that right there. If you wanted it private, then go put it in a building. Go put it in a box. Go put it on private land. Or out of sight of others. I don't know, it's when it comes to geography. Well, I'm real touchy about this, because believe it or not, I'm one of these guys like, wait, so my mom was here, so now I got born with this idea of being an American? And what do you mean? I can't go to anywhere I want freely? What do you? I'm a human being. Are you kidding me? So when it comes to geography, I'm a little nut job because I just am like, wow, that is all free. I'm sorry, nobody can actually technically own any of that.
You to put it in perspective, even in the States, depending on what state you're in, if somebody is in your picture, Heiko kind of mentioned this with the German thing, but if somebody's in your picture and you take a picture, they can technically tell you to like blur their face or find a way to remove. If you're going to post that picture anywhere, like
Especially,
if I was like,
or if you're going to sell that picture.
Or you're going to sell that picture. Yeah. And like that's a public space. Everybody's in the public. It's agreed that we're all in a public space, but there are still limits, right? Like copyright stuff is really convoluted. It's very confusing. Basically, when it comes to that kind of thing, like it depends on where you are specifically. You have to look up your federal laws, your bylaws, where you are specifically. In the terms of something like this, where you've got like one company, I think Motorsports, their company is based in the U.S. Are they not? And then iRacing is obviously based U.S. So they should follow whatever U.S. federal law is on that case, right?
Miami, Florida.
But they also operate globally, so there might be other laws, and like Le Mans is in France, so right, like there's gonna be some weird crossover stuff going on. Like it's far too much for us to actually know, right? But we obviously, for chat's sake, we can only speculate. Like it's just there's too much.
Right. But again, it's so much more clear when you are talking about a piece of art or a piece of music than when you just put something out there. I mean, so with using the Eiffel Tower or a racetrack as an example, but okay, well, what about Mount Rainier? How is that actually any different? Now, I mean, I know somebody built the Eiffel Tower, someone built Mount Rushmore. It's human-made, not man-made, but I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a human walking this earth with a camera. I guess, here's the bottom line. It's actually fairly simple if you really go back to one first step. Are you trying to profit from it? Profit being defined by exchanging money for whatever it is, a picture, a virtual racetrack, whatever. If you're making a penny, and that's the other thing when it comes to law. The law doesn't differentiate the difference between a penny and $1 million, funny enough. I mean, unless you're talking about Grand Theft Auto kind of like levels. But I mean, theft starts at 1 cent. So if you're selling a picture, and again, somebody's walking by in the background. I mean, if you see on TV, on like those candid camera shows, you can tell all the people who they got permission from versus the ones they can't. Because when you see a blurred face go by, because they just needed that clip, but they had to keep that face, they had to blur it because they didn't have permission to show that person. Oh, we could go on all day on this.
Oh, yeah.
What if you take a photo of Eiffel Tower in-flight sim?
Flight Sim is actually a good example, though, right? Because when Flight Sim first came out, they didn't have a bunch of stuff. They're still working on licensing agreements for a whole crapload of landmarks.
Yeah.
Like, I think you mentioned one thing, and I think it does play into it. Man-made versus natural, right? Like you can go take a picture of the Grand Canyon all day, depending on where you're at. Obviously, there are some places where you might have to pay to get through a gate or something, but you know what I mean. Like if you're walking by, you can go take pictures there all day. It's the Grand Canyon. But you go start trying to take pictures of the White House. They might ask you what you're gonna do. Lots of people do it, but they're gonna ask you what the hell you're doing. And if you're trying to sell things, they're gonna make sure that people's faces are blurred out, and
All right.
There's always gonna be lots of rules.
It's tough. Again, it comes down to money, though. I mean, that's the bottom line. If you're trying to make money off of it, I mean, yes, you can go take pictures of the Eiffel Tower, people. It's okay. You're allowed to. You just can't.
Just do it during the day.
You just can't put it on a T-shirt and sell it. All right.
I look at it. I'm being cautiously optimistic about it. We'll see. I mean, I've been proven wrong before, but I'm hoping this time I'm proven right.
Yeah, I'm. I think part of it, and maybe why I'm overreacting just slightly, it's just that so we had this whole COVID thing. Not to put that in perspective, since the time of that though. Codemasters, boom. R-Factor 2, boom. The esport explosion and this influx of attention and money, boom. And I'm just like, I don't know if this pace is sustainable So when they find that out on their end, where does that leave us?
Yeah.
That's, I think, without pointing any fingers, just in a nutshell, that's my vibe and my concern. It's like, wow, there's a lot of big names in a short amount of time, in a weird segment of time, and it makes me uncomfortable. That's all I'm going to say. I think I can leave it there for me. All right. Any other thoughts? Or this one? We got another topic, everyone. It's kind of corporate.
No, I'm good.
Any other
I just want to say Michael. I just want to say Michael Green. Awesome. Do that. Good job. He asked permissions. He's talking about asking permissions from the track owner, and I kind of made like a kind of joking comment. But in all seriousness, we talked about this earlier with Mike. We're talking about this now with copyright stuff. That is always ask permission, even regardless of we're talking and speculating on what the laws are and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Somebody mentioning asking permission. Thank you.
Well, in the
Good
case
job.
of privately owned small tracks, I mean, usually if you approach them right, your answer is actually pretty easy. They're more flattered.
It's free advertising.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, take a case of beer with you. Hey, can I laser scan this? Cool. There you go.
Hey, you mind if I come take some pictures and hang out for a while, drink a 6-pack? Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think Michael says today it's a different world. I think the other difference also, getting back to, this touches upon our beginning topic with Sim Racing 604, but now you have robots doing a lot of this work. It's like, and that's the thing that's kind of upsets me. It's like, wow, it's probably being like over-policed to a point of ridiculous because it's become so simple. And it's like, look, that lady with 8 viewers is not trying to profit. Now, I know, again, theft starts at 1 cent, but that little old lady with a YouTube channel is not trying to profit from her nighttime shots of the Eiffel Tower. And just because your robot saw the Eiffel Tower doesn't mean that she shouldn't be able to have a freaking channel. So that is also how it all ties together for me. Yeah. All right. Pay setups. Oh, this is I might as well just say H pattern, or I might as well just say VR is better than triples. I might as well
pay to win.
Pay to win. Ooh. Yeah, so Ameer, you wrote some notes here. The market's growing as sims are becoming popular. Okay, there are more sim racers than ever before. Despite that article I read on the pit stop that said sim games are dying in the niche of the gaming market, but sim racing, which is separate from gaming, I guess, is growing. Anyway, they work. You pay for setups, Tony? Oh, you're one of those, huh? You pay for setups, huh? Yeah,
I pay for setups with gear ratios because I get confused.
Wait, what?
If I have to do a gear ratio, I pay for a setup. That's where I draw the line. I'm just not patient enough.
No, I'll admit, I pay for setups too. So, yeah, we'll put that out there before we get into discussion. Yeah.
So, Ameer, you are currently on a subscription?
Mm-hmm.
Is it monthly? How does that work?
Yeah, I just pay monthly.
Do you want to say who you buy from?
I mean, I'll say, yeah, like I've tried all of them. So, I mean, I've tried VRS, I've tried Craig's Setup Shop. Currently, I'm using Pure Driving School, using their setups.
That's not who I thought you were gonna say.
Who were you? Who'd you think?
I am not doing advertising for anybody here. Devin, did you say that you pay for setups?
Yeah, I intermittently pay for VRS.
Intermittent. So I should.
If I need a gear ratio, straight up, that's what makes me buy setups. I will unsub for a while if I'm not driving GTE because I don't need them for GT3. I don't feel the need for other things. But if you're starting like open wheel, for instance, open wheel setups are very complicated. IndyCar stuff like that, right? I don't drive those, but I drive GTE. GTE starts to get into more aero. You get into the gear biases and stuff like that, and it's extra time. It takes like 20 minutes for me to go around a track and just do the gear bias, when I could just take 40 minutes, do the rest of the setup, and be happy with it.
Is it unethical to buy setups? Oh, of course, you both buy setups, so you both do it.
Well, I mean, and here's my argument for it is anybody can go out and buy a Logitech DFGT or G29 rim. But then you race against people that have direct drive wheels.
Oh, so you're saying
Or-
I'm cheating? You're saying my
You could be
direct drive
cheating.
wheel is unethical?
It could be.
Phil says my $2,000 pedals are unethical.
That was going to be my other point. Potentiometer going all the way up to load cell pedals. We know, using, better pedals will make you a faster driver. So what's using setups? Isn't it the same thing?
I have to say that I disagree with you on the wheel, but the pedals, you got me.
Load cell. Well, so a wheel will make you more consistent. Won't make you faster. Just makes you more consistent. But the pedals, I mean, for sure, everybody will tell you, a better set of pedals will make you a faster driver.
Now, I'm not saying I'm saying this, but if I were to make the statement that I thought buying setups was unethical, would it be unethical for me to borrow a setup from someone I know who buys setups?
I don't know what you're talking about. Who are you talking about? Phil? I would never buy setups from Phil.
No, it's just I'm fascinated how many people buy setups, and you both do. I don't. But I also struggle for setups at many times.
We're racing GT3 this season. I'm not buying setups. Just a nip, a cranky? We'll yell at Ameer. Shaun and I will yell at Ameer, even though he borrows setups.
Because you know what Shaun's gonna do? He's gonna say, "Hey, Ameer, you got a setup you can lend me?"
You or a few other people. I have a few. I'm lucky enough. I have a few people who will hook me up. I'm not saying Ameer does, because that would probably be wrong. I'm not saying any of my friends who buy setups do, because it would probably be wrong. But I have a great source of people. So maybe I'm jaded. Maybe I need to take myself out of this. I'm not a fair comment.
Well, so here's the argument for. So this is for because you hear this argument, is it ethical to buy setups or not? Not everybody knows how to set up a car. It takes time to learn how to do that. It takes time and effort, and some people just don't have the time to do that. Some people work 7 to freaking 10-hour days. They want to come home. They want to race. They don't want to sit there and worry about building a setup. They just want to jump in a car and go and be competitive.
It's such a. To me, in real life racing, one of the many things you can hire people to do for you would be your engineer. And in real life racing, here's the bottom line: anyone can call Dallara right now and purchase an Indy car. Now to do Indy, you have to still get through their rookie trial, right? But anybody can call Dallara right now and buy an Indy car. Now, that has you a long way from the track, right? Obviously, if it's a series with pit stops, you need tire change. But, you need mechanics, But there is sort of at what point? Now, here we are in the real ranks of racing, and one of the things that we don't have in our sim is a race engineer. So when I raced go-karts, for example, I couldn't afford to have somebody tune my motor and tune my kart. So it was on me, because I didn't have the budget to do so. So I had to learn some tricks of tuning the go-kart. Here we are in Sim, and it's the same thing. It's I really can't afford to pay for setups. I can't. I'm tapped out just on my iRacing membership, right? So it's kind of the same thing. I feel okay, I'm back in the go-karting days, and half the guys I go against pull up in giant race haulers, and 2-3 mechanics jump out to work on their kid's go-kart. And me, my driving suit's all full of grease because I'm working on my own go-kart. And but that's the way it is, right? I don't know. But that's why I brought up the word ethical, because I feel in a weird way it's the haves and have-nots of this sim racing community. But then you had to make me feel bad about my equipment.
I'll tell you something that's unethical.
Huh.
The fact that they sell the setups and then they legitimately police your use of them afterwards. Sure, okay, you make the thing, it's your right to say that you can't sell it. Right. People reselling setups would be disgusting, but the fact that there's a disclaimer that pops up every time I download a setup pretty much to say, hey, you can't share this. Cover it if you're on your streams. It's get out of here with that shit. Like that's to put it bluntly, that's just that's unethical.
But
After you buy it, it should be yours.
But isn't it? How is
I
that
didn't
different
sign
than
it.
what we were just talking about on everything else? How is that different than a Beatles song? You know, he's an
didn't sell
artist, but he's an artist.
You didn't sell it.
He sold it to you.
No, I know
you're
don't
not
sell it.
selling
You're not
it.
reselling it again for personal use. That was my point. Like again, I don't agree with the taking a picture at the Eiffel Tower at night thing. And let's so we could use that as an example though, right? So you take a picture during the day, that's fine. You take a picture during the night, that's not fine. But if you took a picture from like a few blocks over, ain't nobody gonna tell that you're taking that picture. You're gonna take that picture, you're gonna put it up on Facebook, and nobody's gonna flag you for that picture. You see pictures of the Eiffel Tower at night all the time. If I take that setup and I give it to Phil, for instance, right? And then Phil uses that setup. Ain't nobody know that I gave Phil that setup. Phil's using that setup. What's the problem here? Like, it's
Right.
advertising, making money, reselling, all of that is a problem. But if you want to talk about something unethical to do with paid setups, that I think is unethical. Like, for instance, like Craig says, hey, don't share my setups. 9 times in 10, Craig will share his setup with you. If you hang out with his stream and you know him, and like the guys that I know that do are active viewers of streams. I know I'm a watcher, so I'm a terrible person, but the ones that are viewing the streams, they'll ask, and if he just need us set up one time, yeah, sure, here you go, man, no problem.
Now,
But like the big companies, VRS, PDS, no.
now, Peter, thank you very much, Peter. Now, would I be smart taking the $10 and buying 1 month of a setup place and downloading everything they got and then canceling the membership because I got this month covered, thank you, Peter, but I don't have next month covered? Is that ethical? That's what Devin does.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Absolutely.
They give you free reigns to their website. Why not?
I don't download everything,
Yeah.
but absolutely, I save the setups from last season and I update them to this season if
Yeah.
I need to.
Do you guys
Saves me again by a
remember?
pinch.
I think I can't call it that. Do you remember boom boxes? I think that would be a word I can say. Boom box. Oh, did I go too far? No, have I gone too? Do you remember how they used to have 2 tape decks so you could record? Was it ever legal for me to take my Beatles tape? I don't know why I keep using Beatles. I don't know why, but
Same reason you're using a boombox.
Oh, make your mixtape.
No. Well, no. Can I just make a copy of a cassette tape? I buy a actual,
Technically,
wrapped in
no.
cellophane. So you can't even make a copy to protect the one you've got?
Technically, no. So a really good example for this that's a little more current would be video games. Lots of people have video games. They want to use what's called ROMs, right? Where you take the video game, you load it on your computer, and play games that no longer can be sold. It's a super big gray area. Those games can't be sold. It's a little different with music, which is why I wanted to shift it off. Because the Beatles music's still being sold, right? So that's actively protected. But like, you want to go play Mario Kart 64. That game is almost impossible to find on a ROM unless you're like, you're part of some kind of torrenting thing. Lots of people have subscriptions to stuff like that. They can find it. But for the regular person to go and find a copy of the original Mario Kart 64 or something like that,
right.
And get a ROM of it, for one, it's illegal. And they say that if you own a physical copy now, depending on the console and the age of the console, I think it was Super Nintendo, they said, if you own a physical copy, you can actually use the ROM and that's okay. So like streamers sometimes that are playing ROMs will like have a physical copy in the background. Like, I own this, you can't get mad at me,
Right.
But that's something that's like, yes, no, you cannot copy it, even if it's to protect it for you.
Can I use that on my cassette tape? No, here's the OG.
Right, yeah. Here's the original one, right? Technically, I guess that would be the way to try to keep yourself out of trouble. But no, technically, you are not allowed to copy it. It says it right in the EULA. You are not allowed to copy this at all.
Right.
Same thing with videos, right? They sell blank tapes. They sell blank videos, VHS tapes, DVDs, DVD-Rs. But no.
Yeah.
So Chris, I think Chris, certainly we know that if I take my Beatles tape and I make a copy, that there's no police on earth for that. Now, if I give one to my friend, yes, it's illegal. That is an illegal act. There's no doubt in my mind about that. However, there's no police of this on planet Earth either. Now, if I were to make 30 copies, go down to the corner and be like, hey, I got copies of the new White Album, they're going to... Oh my god, we're overtime. Thank you, Dave. Peter Stern's here. Peter, we are doing Wreckfest right now, buddy. Right now. One of the comments made, and this is one of the things that I've heard about setup shops. I've heard that a lot of them are just like this, like bank of sets that aren't necessarily super tailored to, like this build that just happened, for example. So all of a sudden they're dated, and it's like they're not necessarily even that relevant or that tuned. And then it seems that there are others that are really on top of who they're doing. But here's one of the things I'm going to say. If Enzo Benito, if you don't know who he is, he's one of the greatest sim racers on planet Earth from Team Redline. If Enzo Benito handed me his setup for the McLaren MP4, F1 car, I don't think I'd be able to drive it very well. Because Enzo Benito is a professional sim racer with perfect braking, perfect turn-in, perfect everything, and a setup that can be utilized in that manner. So whether he gave it to me or I paid for it, that's not a setup for Shaun Cole. Shaun Cole's a maniac with the gas pedal and has no self-control whatsoever. I'm going to have to give you a rear end that's soft enough and a differential loose enough so that you can get away with that terrible driving style. So I'm not even sure they ever work. I mean, I think that in some cases they're a baseline, but so is the baseline setup. From using it, is that the case, or are they golden?
No, that's not the case. They're not golden.
Yeah.
That is the case. They're not golden. It's very specific to the driver. I use safe setups as a rule, but like I said, for the most part, I grab it for the gear bias. I change the rest of the setup to me. I just want the gear bias or the downforce or whatever to be similar to everybody else's. You don't want to be hampered because you're high downforce and everybody else is running mid or low.
Right.
I think, like, this big thing, like, I don't think there's anyone out there, any one of those guys that are out there that do these kind of setups that are better than the other. It's just trying to find the one that suits your driving style. If you don't want to mess around with the setup. Now, if you get it and you mess around with it to tailor your needs, that's a different story. But no, you're right. Like, Max Benecke, I'm not gonna be able to drive Max Benecke's setup on his cars. Like, he's an alien. I'm not. So like, I'd have to find something that's more suited to me or modify it to more suit my driving style.
Sure.
And the big thing is we do it for.
Temps. That's another
temps.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, we look at, like, for our endurance races, like, when we look at our setups, a setup that works perfectly for me is not going to work perfectly for you, Devin, and we have to sit there and come to a common ground of what is good enough for both of us.
Right. Well, and then we usually dumb it down because we want a setup that is so conservative that it can do a long race without snake biting one of our drivers.
Ameer says, I like this one, and I like this one. Or Ameer says, I like this one, and this one feels safe. And I'm like, okay. It feels safe. Let's go. Safe is good.
Safe means slow. In case you didn't know that, just so you know. But that's that. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to lose a half a second on this.
All right. Well, you know what? All three of these topics I could have gone much longer on. I'm not even close to done with the setup one because we just sort of started to peel this onion. Anyway, but we are over time already, and there are a lot of people out there who want to get their Wreckfest on. If you are watching this, everyone out there, give a big thank you to Peter Stern. Peter Stern has been kind enough to provide the Simpit community with a 24/7, usually, Wreckfest server, and we're going to go crash that server right now and get a gang of us out there meeting up on one another. It's one of the few times where we just throw caution to the wind. There are no rules other than don't let Phil win. Don't let Phil win. If you're out there and you're ahead of Phil, do not let him by. Anyway, that's my message for the day.
My goal is just to take you out. That was my only goal for Wreckfest.
I play Wreckfest with you guys now, and I never even see the end of the race usually. Well, but that's the name of the fun. So, I got my steering wheel ready. I got my paid setups ready to go for Wreckfest. And
make sure you turn off the copyrighted music.
Oh yeah, no more copyrighted music. Anyway, so if you want to join us, you want to get out there, jump onto the Simpit Discord. Just type in !Discord, and that should give you a link to our Discord channel. And that way you can come and play some Wreckfest. It's going to be fun. I'll probably be there for about an hour or so. Oops, it's not Discord, it's Discord. Oh, and it's exclamation mark. I'm trying to do this for everybody. Cord.
I tried to do it earlier and it wouldn't work for me.
There we go. Yeah, Cranky's got some setups for sale. I got Wreckfest setups for sale. And I think that Phil has tuned cars for sale. Hit him up for in-game credits. He'll sell them to you. Anyway, all right.
Hit me up afterwards, Cranky. Hit me up afterwards, Cranky.
Beyond that, I'll let everybody who's watching, if you are watching and you're part of the patron group, just know tomorrow morning we do have our Assetto Corsa patron practice race in Assetto Corsa utilizing Sim Racing GP. And if you want to race that race with us, then you need to talk to one of these guys. You got to either talk to Devin or Ameer on Discord to make sure you're on our Sim Racing GP and you can take part in tomorrow's practice race for next weekend's Assetto Corsa trophy race. First time we've used Assetto Corsa for a patron race, so it should be pretty cool. Should be fun, but that's going to do it for this one. Any other thoughts from you guys?
Real quick on that topic, there's a server posted in chat to practice for that race as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. Hold on. I've really screwed everything up there. There we go. We fixed that. Sorry, everyone. That is going to do it for today's show. If you ever have any ideas for topics that you think we should discuss on 3 Wide, of course, get in that Discord channel and hit up me, Devin, or Ameer. You can send us emails or any of that. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great rest of the weekend and get out there and do some Wreckfest with us. This is the Simpit. I'm Shaun Cole.
We'll see you
on the track.
We'll see you on the track. Have a good day, everybody.